and calls Boston College a bad football team, but their answers on this roster, and there's 2 weeks BC can fix this.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day. I'm your host, AJ Black of Eagle Insider, part of the 247 Network. I've been covering Boston College for over a decade. If you want the news, analysis, and details on your Boston College Eagles, you are in the right place. Locked On BC is a free daily Boston College podcast available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Today's show is packed with reactions to that loss to Stanford, but there's other news on the table. Carter Gooden, star recruit that I've talked about a lot this summer, is he back on the table after a big firing? What can be fixed with BC? And Bill O'Brien, he rips into his Eagles. Let's get into this by talking about the news of the day. Now, Bill O'Brien had some very choice words about his program after the loss to Stanford 30-20 on Saturday night. He said, and I quote, "We are not a good football team right now. Print that, write that. We're going to work hard to be better. Hopefully we improve. We've got a long way to go." And yeah, you got a long way to go because you just lost to what I called the worst team in power football by 10 points. You scored 0 points against the Cardinal in the second half. Your defense looked like Swiss cheese against Micah Ford in that running game. You need to figure things out. BC is a bad football team right now. Bill O'Brien is not wrong. Everything about this, from getting to Stanford on Friday instead of Thursday, to the play of Dylan Lonergan, to the run game still struggling, to injuries, to everything. Right now, things are dire for this program. In a moment, I'll tell you why there's things that you can fix. But right now, BC cannot stop doing what Sideshow Bob did in The Simpsons. If you're a big Simpsons fan, you know what I'm talking about. When he's walking around, stepping on those rakes over and over again. That's BC. That's the BC football 2025 season right there. Walking in, hitting those rakes over and over and over again. You hit one rake, that's Turbo Richard fumbling on the 1 yard line. Another rake, Dylan Lonergan throwing a pick six at a point where you can't afford that. They're everywhere. The snap fumble by Dwayne Alec. Mitch Wolf will be back on, but he sent me a disturbing text about how bad things were for BC on Saturday. EPA, that is the number, it adds up what each play will be in terms of positive and negative in terms of score. Turnovers for BC on Saturday cost BC 16 points. Difference of the game right there. Self-inflicted wounds. Every game that BC seems to lose right now is because of self-inflicted wounds. You can go back to last year if you want to. Look at the UVA game, self-inflicted wounds. The Louisville game, self-inflicted wounds. It just hurts BC because they don't have the talent to overcome those kinds of catastrophic problems. And look, I don't think Georgia or Alabama could overcome the issues that cost BC on Saturday against Stanford. That's bad football. That is something that Bill O'Brien has said he is going to try to fix. He said that 2 weeks ago. BC's not going to win any football games if they keep playing bad football. There's no worse football than what we just saw on Saturday. There were moments where things look better, but it's those moments when it doesn't that has defined this team. Yeah, Dylan Lonergan makes a great pass to Turbo, or he throws an incredible ball to Reed Harris and he makes a great catch. Ela Boykin makes a great stop on fourth down. All that don't matter when Dwayne Alex snaps the ball and Dylan Lonergan can't get on it. Or Turbo throws a ball to the moon on fourth and goal. These stupid plays, and that is what they are. They're bad football they have to stop. And I don't know. I'm not a coach like Bill O'Brien. I don't know how you teach this out of them. I mean, we're going to get into some of those suggestions of what I can think of, but this is why Bill O'Brien makes the big bucks. BC is paying him primo money to come to BC to coach this out of them, because you had Jeff Hafley, you've had Frank Spaziani, and you had Steve Adazio, who could not get out of the situation. When those guys had games like this, the season fell apart. You had 2022. You had 2015. You had 2011. We brought Bill O'Brien on here to prevent those seasons from happening. So when BC faces off against Cal a week from Saturday, you better pray that O'Brien figures this stuff out, because this is what he's here for. It's not to bring a big name. It's to prevent catastrophic issues. I go back to last year. Stanford, yeah, no one took them seriously, and they won 2 games that they never should have won against Louisville and Syracuse. Both good, very good football. You know, I bashed Syracuse, but they won 11 games or 10 games last year. Louisville was very good, but they picked up from where they left off after those losses. Syracuse, I don't think, lost another game. They might have lost one more game after that, and that was to BC. This is BC's chance. They got to figure this out. You've got Cal coming in a week. Cal has beaten Oregon State. They've beaten Minnesota. That's a perfect get-right game. You got to put your stuff together, though. You cannot go against Cal and have your running back fumbling again, having, all sorts of issues with your offensive line. You've got to figure that stuff out. Injuries or not, you got the guys that you need to get out there. You need to be able to get that going. So Bill O'Brien, he had every right to rip this program, because they need to hear that. All summer long, you asked when I got a chance to talk to the players, I asked them, what's your goals for this year? It was the ACC championship. And by week 2 of the ACC season, it seems like it's already gone. That needs to be, there's chance for things to happen still, but you got to be able to get on that now. In a moment, the coaching staff, what can they fix? I'll give you some suggestions in just a moment. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. You and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right means cashing in. With football back, PrizePicks is the simplest and fastest way to get on the action. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you could take your takes into real prizes all in less than 60 seconds. I've been playing PrizePicks lately, and it's been a fun way to stay locked in for the season in the NFL. It's quick, it's easy, and it's honestly my favorite way to follow along with football. I love checking projections like Josh Allen for more or less than 270 passing yards, or Saquon Barkley for more or less than 1 rushing touchdown. All you got to do is download the PrizePick app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePick. It's good to be right. This is Locked On Boston College. I am your host, AJ Black of Eagle Insider. Thank you all who have made Locked On Boston College your first listen every day. And if you want to become one of our everydayers, I challenge you to it. Look, I've been positive at times, I've been negative at times, but I give you my takes on everything. And you may agree, some of you may disagree. I heard from a pretty famous BC alum that says he's an everydayer. He's a guy you all know. I'm not going to out him. And he said, AJ, I don't agree with everything you say, but I love listening to you because you have a good vibe to your show. So maybe that's why you listen to me. And if you do, I appreciate you. So this next piece is what can be fixed. What about the last 2 weeks have we seen now that we have a bye week can BC fix? The first thing I have to say is the offensive line. I think there's a fix here. I watched some film. Mitch Wolf of Eagle Insider. You guys love him. He shows me film too. And I think BC made the first move to trying to fix that by benching Dwayne Alec. Now, I'm sure Dwayne Alec is a nice guy. I don't like bashing college kids, but he struggled big time over the last 2 weeks. If you watch the film, it wasn't pretty. But getting Michael Crounce out there, someone Bill O'Brien talked about very glowingly, and I thought looked good during practice when Dwayne Alec was out for a while during the summer, makes a lot of sense. This is your future center, and I think he's very good. So I'm not ready to say he's going to be a star or anything like that, but I think he's worth playing. That's the first piece. The second piece with your offensive line is getting in. You're going to have another tackle because it looks like I would imagine from what I saw from Jude Bowery, he's going to be out for a while. We don't get media coverage this week for practices. It's a bye week and they've closed it. That's fine. It looks like Ryan McCow. Ryan McCow, this is his chance. And, I love Jude Bowery, but call what it is. This guy's been hurt a lot. I know it's a very physical position, but this poor guy has been injured a lot. McCow could be a good answer there. That's 2 changes. Is that enough for your offensive line? I'm not sure. Maybe you juggle some other things. I don't know how much juggling you want to do midseason though. Like, do you consider putting Dwayne Alec in at guard, or do you, I don't know what you want to do there. Kevin Klein struggled at tackle. Maybe do you put Logan Taylor back at tackle? He played better at tackle according to Mitch when I talked to him. Maybe that's a thought. I don't know how much changing they're going to want to do, but the offensive line definitely needs to improve. But getting good snaps is a big thing, and Michael Crounce is going to do that for you. Then, what other changes do you make? This is a my pulpit thing, and again, not to bash the kid, but I think it's time to move on from Isaiah Ferris at punt returner. As I said on yesterday's show with Mitch, Isaiah, for the last 3 weeks, has let every single punt just go over his head. Just hasn't fair caught anything. He's returned probably 1 or 2 punts, and that's been it. That literally flips the field every time he lets that happen. It seems like every punt, you've watched enough football. You've seen a few that bounce forward. He lets everyone, and they all go backwards. BC has had, I was at summer practice. It's good, getting some of that, access. They had 6 or 7 guys going for punt return. Just try somebody else. It can't be worse than what you had. Last week against Michigan State, he let 2 bounce, and they got stopped at the 1-yard line. This week, he did it a couple times and then decided to return one when there's a guy in his lap. I think there's a change that needs to be there. And that's not the only change I'd like to see on special teams. I was high on him for a while, but I think it's time to start doling out who should be punting. I think Andy Quinn needs to get back into the punt game. I think Florio will be fine when it comes to, punts at midfield, or you want to pin them deep. Those are what he's going to do. I think it's worth letting Andy Quinn boom some punts because Florio had a real rough game. And yes, he's had, I think I watched the film again, and that punt where it was called back because of the too many men on the field. He wasn't rushing it and still shanked it. So I think you got to make a change there. Then let's go to the defensive side of the ball, because the biggest change is going to come there. You need to get rid of, you need to bench. I don't want to say bench because he should still play a little bit. Carter Davis needs to be your other starting safety. You got to stop playing Omar Thornton. He had 5 missed tackles against Stanford. Watching him during the summer, I was really impressed with the physicality of what he does, but it has been really detrimental to this team with when he does it on the field, because he's not tackling. He's just a heat-seeking missile, and he's not wrapping guys up, and they're breaking tackles easily against him. So he's been a big liability. He had the lowest Pro Football Focus score on the entire team last week. Just around where Dwayne Alec had it. Like the 2 of them were the lowest. So you have Carter Davis. Now, the big question there is going to be the health of your secondary, because you could put Carter Davis back at corner if you want to. I want to see him out there. He needs to play. But we don't know what Amari Jackson's situation is, but I don't know what Ashton McShane's situation is. I don't have good feelings about Zaire Torrance, who put a post on Instagram with a breaking heart emoji and everyone saying, "You'll get back soon. We miss you. This is a small setback." So that seems bad. I don't know what's going on with him, but based off the comments, it does not look good. But if you get Jackson back and McShane, then you should be in better shape. But we haven't seen Ashton McShane this year, and Amari Jackson is coming back from knee surgery, and he went off limping last week, so not good there. But I still think Thornton needs to be set because he just I mean, there was that play against Stanford where he got completely crossed up, and the tackling is a big issue there. So I would put Carter Davis back out there and have him with Price. Interestingly, I see a lot of people being kind of negative on KP Price. If you look at his Pro Football Focus course, it's not bad. He hasn't been the biggest issue. It's been a lot of Thornton. So that's a thing. Then I'm not sure if it's a change, more of a question on two players on BC that just completely disappeared. And I'm just curious from Bill's perspective, what's going on there. And it's one on both sides of the ball. On the offensive side of the ball, I want to know what the heck is going on with Ty Lockwood. He didn't play. He wasn't on the availability report, which means he wasn't injured. Why was he not playing? Why was Kalen Chudzinski playing over him? And Chud only played like 8 snaps, so it wasn't like they were playing a lot of 1-2 offense there. But what is going on? I thought Lockwood looked pretty decent at practice. Like, he's not like a game changer, but he can at least catch the football, but we didn't see him at all. That was a big question. You saw Chud, you didn't see Lockwood. On the defensive side of the ball, Jason Hewlett played. He played 7 snaps on special teams, but we did not see him play a single snap on defense. What is going on there? Why is he not playing? I on one hand, I get it with Stanford. Look, Stanford beat BC, but we can all admit that they don't have like huge athletes on. I mean, they don't. But they still beat BC. You put in a guy like Owen McGowan to match them because he's a smart linebacker. He's not the fastest dude. And that kind of matches up with what you're doing with Stanford, right? Like, you got a guy out there that's not going to miss his gaps. He's going to make good plays. And your hope is that he's going to be fine. But you don't play Hewlett, who's still learning the defense a little bit, maybe a little bit more raw. But we're getting up to the point where we're going to start playing games, I would say starting with Cal, where you need to have more athletic guys out there. You just do. And without Bam Crouch out there, you cannot go out there with Bryce Steele as your second starting linebacker. I don't know what Bam's injury is. Hopefully he'll be back. But you have to – Steele is more of a situational guy, like a guy you can throw it a bit. But you got to get Jason Hewlett out there. He's got to be your next linebacker up. It's not Von Pemberton. I'm just tell you that. That's the situation. Those are some of the things I'm thinking about. Of course, people are going to go super negative and think, and like, I get it. Like Matt Turn, the special teams coordinator, fire him is what a lot of folks say. I don't see BC making a change like that in the season, unless things got really dire. I would say if they're going to move on from like a special teams coordinator, that would go after the season, but I don't think they would do that at this point. But see, the thing is, with all these changes, the answers are still, I mean, it was so frustrating watching BC against them, but you have to remember, like, if BC didn't make all those stupid turnovers, they win that game easily. So you can still fix this if you get your guys mentally right. And that's what Bill O'Brien's going to have to do. Now, in our final segment, let's do a little recruiting. As 2 head coaches are fired. One is the head coach of a school of a player BC really wanted. Do they have a chance again? I'll get into that in just a moment. College football is back, and I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands. There's nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel more like of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices, jumping in at checkpoint. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. I pulled up Game Time, and in just a couple taps, I saw amazing deals. I'm talking about college football games as low as $25, and the app is super simple. I can even see the exact view from my seat before buying. I love zone deals too. Pick up the section, pick the seats, and you save big. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket. Go download Game Time today. Wrapping things up here, Locked On Boston College, AJ Black here. And I want to shout out everyone who made Locked On Boston College their first listen. If you're looking for a second listen, check out Locked On ACC with Alex Dono and Kenton Gibbs. They're talking all things ACC and a conference that's well open. Now, we haven't talked recruiting in a while. Things get quiet during seasons for BC. And the first game that BC played at home, there wasn't a lot of visitors of note. But this weekend, UCLA lost their third straight game and fired head coach Deshaun Foster. This is not a really surprising move. Honestly, I was surprised they hired him in the first place. This is a guy with no experience. It seemed doomed from the start. They brought in, the quarterback Nico from Tennessee, and they just looked completely lost. They got blown out by New Mexico, and that was the end of that. Now, why do I bring this up? Well, if you listen to this podcast at all during this summer, if you're an everydayer, you heard me talk about Carter Gooden from Tabor Academy, a 4-star top 100 defensive edge that committed to UCLA over the summer. Well, their head coach is gone, someone he thanked in his commitment post. So you have to wonder, is this door open again? Now, I was hoping to get on this show after a win over Stanford and talk about how BC had momentum. They could show off that they're going in the right direction. And, that went kaput. But I don't honestly think that is the biggest factor here. I think UCLA I think this goes back to NIL. I know BC tried hard, and believe me, they, from what things I've heard, they tried to put a competitive package to get him here, but it was all short of what UCLA was able to offer. Now, when I think about this situation, if he decommits, and he has not decommitted yet, so that's something else to consider. There are 3 teams I think that were really in on him at the end. It was BC, UCLA, and Penn State. Penn State's probably going to play in the college football playoffs with a good chance to make the national championship. BC, we've spent the last 2 weeks talking about how bad some of these losses are. It will be, again, a tough uphill climb. Now, I don't know, and I honestly have not looked at what Penn State's recruitment situation has looked like in the last couple of weeks. But I can imagine that they will find space for a top 100 recruit. They will figure it out. Now, BC, again, with Carter, it's not like they have like a hometown advantage here because Carter's from Canada. And there's other schools that are also starting to show interest. Georgia Tech, who just beat Clemson, offered Carter Gooden on Sunday. I would imagine there may be some other programs, if they like his film and know that there's a little blood in the water, are going to do the same thing. But I don't think the door's shut for BC yet. I still think there's a chance that they could get in and maybe, wow him. Pull off a few good wins here at the end of the season. Win some games and open some eyes. Carter's would be the biggest ones to open. You can still do it. The season is not dead yet. I know a lot of folks think that everything is now dead and that nothing good's going to come from the season. And you may be right. You may have that, but there's still a chance. It's Lloyd Christmas from Dumb and Dumber. So you're telling me there's a chance. Things can still happen. And maybe with some wins, Carter Gooden will commit to BC. We'll have to wait to see what that happens later in the fall. Thank you all for listening. Follow me at Twitter at AJBlack247. Check me out on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Blue Sky, TikTok. I'm everywhere. Just look up Locked On BC or AJ Black and you'll find me. For all my Eagles nesters out there, those on my Eagles Nest subtext, thank you all for hanging out. And if you have not done so already, you can sign up. Details are in the show notes. And I'll see you all again tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Boston College, your team every day.